All right guys, so next up on the XR is the shift lever. When I got the bike, it came with this one. It's kind of twisted, the end's all worn out, and it's pretty short for my boot. So I had this one in the old parts bin. It's obviously way too long and sticks out way too far, but I'm gonna try to get some ideas from it and maybe use this end on a new one that I'm gonna make from scratch out of steel. Okay, here's the original, and we got this piece of plate here. Should work out pretty good for this. About the same thickness as the original, as you can see. Just gonna lay this out, something like that. Kind of draw my design, and I'll probably add about an inch to it, something like that. That should be good to go. All right, it's my rough shape. Cut it out on a little bit of an angle. Kind of drew it too straight the first time, but you know, obviously none of this is set in stone until you put the grinder to it. I'm gonna clamp this down to the end of the bench and just take the grinder and cut it out really quick. Got a little ahead of myself, guys. Before you cut out something like this, you have a lot of leverage and you have a big advantage to be able to hold these things if you want to drill holes. Once I cut this and it's sort of like triangular shaped, it becomes almost impossible to clamp it in a vise. So I'm gonna drill my holes first, and you know, I didn't go crazy. I literally just spaced it by eye. And I'll probably step down a little. I'll start maybe like a 1/4 inch and I'll step down as I go. But I'm gonna put this underneath the drill bit like that, and I can hold it, drill all my holes, and then come back and finish cutting out the part. All right, I laid out the drill bits in size order. Might have messed up those two, but I'm gonna try to move them over to my other drill press next to me and make sure I don't confuse them as I drill. I'm gonna put one little squirt on every dot, like that. Should be good to go. If I needed any type of precision hole, I would center punch these. But like I said, guys, this is just for fun, purely aesthetic. All right, so same process, just keep going down in size every time until I'm done. All right, moving right along. I got it on the bench here, and you can see it's a decent amount longer than the original. A little bit shorter than this one, somewhere in the middle, but kind of fitted on the bike, and I'm thinking it might be just a little bit too long. So I could easily, I could cut off the end. I like the spacing on the end, whereas if I relocate this here, like that, let's say, I like the way that spacing looks better. So what I'm thinking about doing is just cutting that. This is round anyway, so I'll probably cut here and here on an angle, and then, you know, tune it up a little bit with the grinder and get it to be a half a circle to match up better with this. I have a few of these little vices. I use them mostly on my drill presses, but this bench that I have out in my shop here, I don't keep a vise on it because sometimes I put frames on here or different large things I'm working on, so the vise kind of gets in my way. I have other benches with bigger vices, but when I'm doing little stuff like this, I like to just bring over these little guys. I could clamp the part like you see, and then just take the grinder and slice that off. Okay, so I cut off the end of the original one. I'm gonna try to use this knuckle and spring and assorted parts in there, and I'll probably remake this either out of aluminum or steel. I V'd this, as you can see. I'm gonna mess around with this end now, V it to a point. I just want to get the spacing right. That actually kind of looks pretty good right there. I'll give this some nice weld, grind it down, make it look smooth. But before I do that, I'm gonna grind off the head of this shaft here and pull the spring out so I don't lose the spring temper on that from the heat of the weld. Something important you gotta think about when you do this, guys. So this was just another bolt I had lying around. Machine's very nice, much better than the last one I tried with some bar stock I had. I'm just gonna leave, I left this little like nub on the end here. That's gonna be the shoulder to stop it when it slides in. And I'm gonna part it off on the threads. Just slide it in there with a little bit of thread left. And part it off. Okay, so I got the pin made, as you guys just saw. I straightened both of these brackets out as best I could and drilled them out one size larger drill bit, which I had measured already to be a perfect size for this pin. And as you can see here, it moves nice and smooth. The only problem I'm having is that it goes past parallel. So I want it to stop like that, roughly like that, and it's going past that point, like that. It's hard to show you guys. Anyway, point being is that the stopper on the back here is kind of broken and worn out, so I'm just going to build it up with weld and grind it down until it's not doing that anymore. So this had a little crush bushing, we call it, and fit right in there. I don't really see the purpose of it, to be honest. I guess it holds the spring in place. And if you really, well, I don't even know how you could do that because this wasn't a nut and bolt through here. It's not a crush bushing. I guess it's just to hold the spring in place. Anyway, so my new center shaft does not fit in there, unfortunately. So I'm machining up a new one really quick. Okay, that worked out really well. Get the bushing in there, put it all back together with the spring. We hard to show with one hand, but nice snap back to it. Much tighter than the original. Still got to add a little bit of weld just to straighten this out. It's kind of ridiculous that this would have such a short, knurled little piece of tubing on the end here. It's almost impossible to even get it with your foot. This one that I had is much longer. So what I'm gonna do is chuck up a piece of bar stock, something like this I had laying around, and I'm gonna work on my design, putting some grooves and some knurls, something like this. I might even go maybe 1 or 2 longer, see how I like it. And you know, it's always easy to shorten it afterwards. It's much harder to add material. As you can see here, you know, I left this much longer. I'll either drill it and cotter pin it, which is usually the easiest for me, or I have a set of C-clips. I could groove it on the lathe and put a C-clip in there. We'll see. Just depends on my mood, I guess. That's looking good so far. So I made five raised sections. You can see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 5 countersunk sections. What I did was I used the parting tool. I spaced them out evenly, and I would just kind of scribe a line 230 thousandths across, center. You can see the parting tool has like a ridge in the middle of it. Hopefully you can see that. Probably not. This camera's terrible. I would center the little ridge with the center of the groove, and then with my dial, I bring it in 20 thousandths. Next up is going to be my knurling tool. Just going to go nice and easy and do them one at a time, and I'll find the depth that I like. All right, so I'm just centering the knurling tool, moving down one at a time, and with my dial, I'm working it, I believe 30, 40 thousandths. I set it on the first one, and then I'm kind of doing the same setting for each one. We'll see how it looks when I'm done. Completed parts. New bushing for inside the spring. I wish I actually had a new spring. Let's see, dig through my spring drawer, See if I can come up with something, but I don't have one as of the moment. I don't have a washer or cotter pin for the bottom either, so I'm going to use this thin nut and hitch pin for now. My shaft is done, just bored a little hole through it, and going to assemble it and put it on the bike. Alright, so I didn't need the nut in the bottom. I miscalculated where I drilled the hole, but luckily I just made it. Eventually when I get my cotter pins, put that in. Seems to be pretty straight now. I built up some weld on the stopper here, as you can see. And the spring is decent. I mean, it has an alright snapback. Not phenomenal, but good enough for now. See if I can get my hands on another spring at some point. And now let's fit it on the bike and see how it is.